The remembrance of Allah is the greatest nourishment of the soul, and among the most powerful ways a believer begins his day is through the morning Adkar and Dua taught to us by the Prophet Muhammad. Morning Adkar are not simply ritual words. They are shields of protection, light for the heart, and doors of sustenance and peace for the day ahead. To wake up and consciously begin with the remembrance of Allah is to declare that the day belongs to Him, that one's actions will be for His sake, and that one's heart seeks His mercy before engaging with the world. These morning supplications are gifts from Allah, treasures handed down through the Sunnah, by which a believer aligns his mindset, secures his protection, and sets his heart upon success in dunya and akhirah. The power of the morning adkar lies in the mindset it cultivates. In a world full of distractions, anxiety, and unforeseen challenges, beginning the day with remembrance instills clarity and strength. A Muslim who wakes up and recites La ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdi, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir 100 times, as taught by the Prophet, is not only earning immense reward, but is also proclaiming Tawheed with conviction. This proclamation settles the heart, reminding it that no matter what happens during the day, whether hardship, loss, or victory, everything belongs to Allah and He alone has power. Such a mindset cannot be shaken by worldly difficulties because it is rooted in divine remembrance. Morning dua is also an armor against the unseen. The Prophet informed us that whoever recites at al-Kursi in the morning will be protected by Allah until the evening. This is not metaphorical protection, but real preservation from harm, calamity, and shaitan. Similarly, the recitation of the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, the last 3 surahs Ikhlas, Falak, Nas, and other supplications form a spiritual shield around the believer. In a world where envy, harm, and evil whispers abound, the morning adkar act as a fortress. The believer steps into the world covered by the light of Allah's words, guarded from enemies seen and unseen, and filled with a confidence that his affairs are under divine watch. The Prophet would also begin his mornings by seeking forgiveness. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilay, repeated sincerely, clears the stains of the heart and resets the believer's focus. By seeking forgiveness first thing in the morning, a Muslim admits his weakness and asks Allah to bless his day with purity, resilience, and clarity. This act of humility is powerful because it aligns the mindset toward accountability and growth. No matter what happened yesterday, the believer begins today renewed, determined to improve, and hopeful in Allah's mercy. Among the most well-known morning duas is the supplication, Allahumma in Nai aspatu ashijuka wa ashidu hamalata arshika wa malaikataka wa jamia kolkika anaka antu ala la ilaha illa antu wadoka la sharika loka wa ana muhammadan abjuka wa rasuluka. This declaration, repeated 4 times in the morning, affirms the Shahada and bears witness with creation that Allah is one. The reward promised for it is that Allah frees the believer from the fire. Starting the day with such a dua means starting with liberation, light, and protection, building a foundation of conviction that strengthens the believer against all tests ahead. Another essential morning remembrance is Hasbi Allah, hu la ilaha illa huwa, alayhi tawakkaltu wa huwa Rabbul Arshil Azim, said 7 times. This supplication instills the mindset of reliance upon Allah. In the challenges of work, studies, family, and responsibilities, the believer is reminded that his strength alone is not enough. Real power, provision, and solutions come only from Allah. Reciting this dua in the morning anchors the heart in Tawakkul, making the believer resilient, courageous, and patient throughout the day. The Prophet would also teach his companions to say, Allahumma bika aspana wa bika amsena wa bika nahia wa bika namat wa ilayka and nashar. In this simple yet profound dua, the believer acknowledges that waking up is only by Allah's permission, that life and death are in His hands, and that the ultimate return is to Him. This mindset breaks arrogance and builds gratitude. Each morning becomes a reminder that life is a gift, and every breath is an opportunity to serve Allah. One of the most beautiful aspects of morning adkar is how they transform ordinary daily tasks into worship. When a believer recites these supplications, his walking, working, and even struggles become infused with barakah. He is no longer just earning a living, but fulfilling his responsibilities under the shade of divine remembrance. He is no longer just facing hardships, but walking through them with the certainty that Allah is with him. Morning adkar plant a seed of faith that blossoms throughout the day in actions, thoughts, and attitudes. Morning dua also heals the mind and heart. Many people wake up with stress, regrets, or fears about the future. By reciting dua and hikr, the believer empties these burdens onto Allah, reminding himself that nothing is too great for him. This relieves anxiety and builds emotional resilience. Scientific research today even supports that spiritual practices like remembrance reduce stress and improve focus. But for the believer, this is more than psychology. It is divine healing promised by Allah. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Quran 13:28. Another key element of morning adkar is gratitude. The Prophet would say upon waking, Alhamdulillah hilad hi ahiana bada ma amatana wa ilay hin nushar. All praise is due to Allah who gave us life after causing us to die, and to Him is the resurrection. This simple declaration is filled with depth. Sleep is like a minor death, and waking is a resurrection. By starting the day with gratitude, the believer reframes the entire day as a gift. Gratitude fuels positivity, productivity, and growth. It motivates the believer to use the day wisely, knowing it may be his last. There is also a great emphasis on seeking refuge from evil in the morning. Among the duas is, Allahumma in nai asaluka kaira hadho, yom fathahu wa nasrahu wa nurahu wa barakatahu wa hudahu wa hubika min shari ma fihai wa shari ma badahu. This dua teaches the believer to proactively seek goodness and refuge before stepping into the unknown day. It shapes a proactive mindset. Instead of fearing challenges, the believer asks Allah for victory, light and guidance, and protection from harm. Such a mindset builds confidence and ensures that every decision throughout the day is rooted in remembrance. Morning adkar also tie into leadership. The Prophet, as the leader of the Ummah, demonstrated that leadership is not only about strategy or strength, but about beginning every day with humility before Allah. When leaders, whether parents, teachers, or professionals, start their day with dua, they bring barakah not only into their own lives, but into the lives of those they influence. Leadership rooted in remembrance becomes compassionate, wise, and firm, because it is anchored in divine guidance. The reward of morning adkar is not limited to protection in this world, but extends into the hereafter. The Prophet promised that those who consistently recite their morning and evening adkar will enter Jannah. Each recitation is recorded as a deed of light, a shield against punishment, and a means of intercession on the day of judgment. When the believer realizes that a few minutes in the morning can secure eternal reward, he begins to prioritize it as the most important habit of the day. The power of morning dua also lies in consistency. One day of remembrance may bring peace, but a lifetime of consistent dhikr builds an unshakable character. The Prophet emphasized regularity even in small deeds, saying that the most beloved actions to Allah are those that are consistent, even if small. Thus, the believer should not underestimate starting his day with even a few adkar if he cannot do them all. The key is to be consistent and sincere. Morning adkar shape the believer's vision of success. In a materialistic world where success is often measured by wealth, status, or power, remembrance reminds us that true success is Allah's pleasure. The believer begins his day not chasing dunya blindly, but anchoring his goals in akhirah. This balance allows him to pursue dunya with discipline and excellence, but without losing sight of his ultimate destination. The mindset built by morning dua is also future ready. Life will always bring uncertainty, economic changes, family challenges, personal struggles, but the believer who starts each day with remembrance has trained his heart to handle uncertainty with trust in Allah. He has built resilience not by relying on himself, but by connecting to the source of all power. Such a mindset allows him to thrive in dunya while remaining steadfast in deen. Ultimately, the power of morning adkar and dua is the power of transformation. They transform fear into courage, despair into hope, sin into repentance, weakness into strength, and ordinary mornings into extraordinary beginnings. They are not just words, but lifelines to Allah, shaping the believer into someone whose day, mindset, and actions are guided by divine mercy. The one who begins his mornings with dua is not just surviving the day, he is living with purpose, resilience, and vision. He becomes a leader of himself and a light for others, walking through life with the shield of remembrance and the confidence of tawakkul. For the believer who commits to this practice, every morning becomes a renewal of faith, a shield of resilience, and a step toward ultimate success in the sight of Allah.